Hello, everyone. Sorry. It's your girl, Gabrielle. Welcome to a brand new episode of Hot Topics. Excuse me. Let me just remind you what this show is about in case there are any newcomers, or maybe you have come back and maybe you just need a reminder. So, this is the show where we like to have real conversations. We like to have real talk about real things that are happening, but this is not for celebrity gossip. This is for educational purposes. So, all of these stories, all of these testimonies, all of these shows is the purpose is to educate you and to teach you and for you to learn and for you to be better than how you were yesterday. And I'm so appreciative today because, oh, I just realized that I forgot the name of the episode. Um, but I am bringing back a topic and I am bringing back a guest. Resiliency, thank you. Thank you. Um, all right, so I just realized I didn't make the banner here. So give me 1 second. I know we are live right now, but yes. So I'm bringing back a topic as well as a guest. Um, Amira Martin, got it. All right. So I'm a little today, but let's do this. We're gonna push forward. All right. So I'm bringing back a topic as well as my guest. So let me tell you what that topic is. I just got my banner down. It is resiliency, part 8. That's right. This is the 8th time that I have brought this topic. I love it when I bring back the same topic because I get to look at multiple perspectives of the same thing. And even though it's, one word, right? But there's so many different ways to view that word. So, and to epitomize that word. So, this is the 8th installment of Resiliency. And let me tell you who my guest is. She's actually returning to the show. She is a repeat guest. Her name is Amira Martin. She was on twice before. She was on What is Antisocial Personality Disorder, parts 1 and 2. So I encourage you to check out those 2 episodes. And she is back for the third time. So Amira Martin is my returning guest today. And let me just remind you quickly about who she is. So Amira Martin, LCSW. She is a communication expert and psychotherapist who owns A Mirror for Her. She also owns A Mirror for Him and A Mirror for Them, which is a few of her group private practices. And she teaches at Columbia University School of Social Work. She is committed to establishing safe and supportive therapy spaces. Fabulous, fabulous. All right, so without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and bring her to the stage. Hi, Amira, how you doing today?
Hi, Gabrielle. I am doing well. Thank you so much.
Thank you for, or I forgot the R, your LCSW hyphen R. But thank you for coming back to Hot Topics and thank you for coming back to the hot seat.
My pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure to be here. I appreciate it.
All right. So the last 2 times you talked about antisocial personality disorder themselves. And
Mhm.
today we're going to talk more about you. So the focus is more on you. So the topic is resiliency, and you definitely are resilient. You've been through some things. Uh, so I'm going to have you tell your story.
Yeah. Okay. Terrific. Terrific. Where do you want me to start, Gabrielle? Should I start early adulthood?
Wherever you deem fit.
Okay. Okay. Terrific. So, just in thinking about resiliency today, right? Even just right now, like, even us, like the process of logging on and having to figure things out, right? It just reminds me that we're all going through stuff, right? Like our world is going through stuff right now. There are wars going on, there are all sorts of things going on, there are famines, there's on and on and on going on all over the world, as we said here. And even though we may not be in direct line of that stuff, we're lucky enough not to be right now. Um, we have to have some resilience in order to be able to still function, in order to be able to, you know, get ourselves together every day, in order to continue to feel hopeful about the world. And we've also been through our own stuff, right? Our own individual stuff and community and cultural and racial and religious stuff and on and on and on. Um, so resiliency is something that we all have some level of, right? And we never know the depth of it until we're tested, until it's really truly tested. So I will start in terms of sharing my own personal story, um, where I really feel like was really a test that I had never expected to have to take, and one that I certainly didn't know how to pass, so to speak, right? So, early 20 early 2012, 2013 or so, I was working as a program director, and I was working with a large nonprofit in New York City, directing programs. And I had reached a level of success that I was really proud of. I had two boys at the time. They were both doing really well. I had home ownership. I had, a work to becoming a director in my career at this really tough nonprofit. Not an easy place to work. Lots of good stuff there, but definitely had its challenges, really big challenges. So I wanted to celebrate, and I'm that type of person who likes to just take a moment and celebrate whenever I can. Just celebrate life, enjoy life, and whatever things we can find to keep us smiling and connecting. I like to engage in. So I was planning this party, and I had a boyfriend that I was seeing at the time who had agreed to cater it, right? Um, and all of a sudden, maybe 3 days before, he pulled out. He said, "I'm not going to cater it." And, from there, we kind of had all sorts of issues, right? Ended up ending that, whatever it was that we were involved in. Um, and so I went on Facebook and I went on my group, um, one of the group pages for my middle school, and I found that there was someone who was a caterer. And I said, "Hey, can you cater my event? I have an emergency. This is what's happening." He said, "Absolutely. I'd love to cater it for you." So he showed up with the food, um, catered the event, dropped the food off, and we eventually started dating each other. So I had known this person from middle school, and now here I was as a full grown adult, probably in my early 30s. I want to say I was probably about 30, 31 or 32. Um, and he was catering. He had catered this event, and we started dating. Um, so things went really well, and we really connected on so many levels. And I thought that I had found somebody who was really smart and really incredibly hardworking and really committed to family and all of these things that I cared about, right? Like all these same qualities. And it was just like, it just felt amazing to feel like I have finally found like a real match for me in terms of who he is and what he wants and what he cares about, right? Which are like the most important things. Um, so eventually, we ended up getting married about a year later, a little under a year. He wanted a child very badly. He hadn't had any children. And um, after a series of miscarriages, I ended up pregnant with our daughter, with my daughter. Um, Along the way, I had helped him with a number of things, including opening up a restaurant, which cost a pretty penny. Um, a vehicle for deliveries, like, all sorts of stuff. I was working incredibly hard, um, earning a lot of money and keeping none of it, honestly, to support this person's dream, or so I thought, right? To help us to grow into a better place together. And we were married and had all these like hopes and dreams and plans. Um, and I didn't mind being behind that in that way. It wasn't until later that I saw that this was a really had been a really big mistake, and not my daughter being a mistake, but just the whole relationship being a mistake, right? So slowly and gradually, this person became colder and colder towards me, and just had a different attitude towards me. It was almost like I was living with a stranger. All of the warmth and the jokes and the connection and running around together to do different things and spending time together all pretty much stopped. And it was almost like I was living with, again, a complete stranger. Um, Instead of asking me for things, or if if there was asking if there was a way I could help with something, maybe I could, maybe I couldn't, sort of thing, it became demands, right? It became demands for asking, a certain amount of money, or that we go on a trip, or that we do this, or that we do that. Um, it became, after my daughter was born, again, this person became violent, right? And was not at all the person that I had married. So, in a normal domestic violence relationship, right, where a person does not have like antisocial personality disorder, like I suspect my ex had and has, um, there's a lot more of an actual attachment between the person who's doing the abusing and the person that they are abusing. There's an actual relationship underneath there, and the person has some traits and some maybe some other issues that make it very challenging for them to navigate a healthy relationship. But in a relationship with someone with antisocial personality disorder, it's very different. The person literally goes from, acting one way, and then their mask falls off completely and they're showing you a completely different person. So I felt blindsided, right, when all this happened. Here I had a new baby, and still was thinking that we could make things work well, and there was no way that they could. um, so my resilience, I think, kicked in just in the fact that I was able to get through that, right? I started to understand that there was something else wrong, that this was not you know anywhere near a normal relationship or a normal person. The things that they would do made absolutely no sense and didn't fit into what in my mind was the idea of like a caring, loving person, or a mate, or anyone who cares anything about you would do. And the violence just increased and increased and increased. Um, Now I just want to say that part of what made it really hard was that I didn't get the support that I would have expected from lots of different areas. um, Calling the police, and this person would convince the police that I was just upset, and that they need, and then the police would tell them to go for a walk. That happened a number of times. Um, Also, with like even calling like those hotline numbers, there always had to be a multitude of steps taken before you could possibly go anywhere for safety, and that doesn't help you at like 9 o'clock at night when you're afraid and you see this person's behavior is escalating. Um, I really felt trapped, and I felt like there was just no way that I could safely get out. You know, Eventually I did. After this person became even more abusive, and um, I was able to literally pay this person off and give them funds to go find their own place, and with the idea that yeah, I was going to try to work it out with them, or that sort of thing. But they had abused me so much that I was literally living in terror, and it was really just a tactic to get out, to get away from this violent monster. um, so at that point, they I got them out, and while my daughter was visiting them, they became abusive to my daughter. um, and she still has very clear recollection of that, um, of those instances. And so then that became another thing that I had to really work through. Um, so here we are, that was 2019, right? Here we are 4 years later, and my daughter still is in therapy and has to go to therapy sometimes. And I did 2 years of therapy, one of which was like purely EMDR, just to be able to be well and to be able to function again, just to be able to get to the point where I could do the things I couldn't do while I was dealing with like hardcore PTSD. Um, so that's what resiliency has meant for me. And there have been definitely some other things where I've been able to do really great things that I'm incredibly proud of, um, even after this situation took place. But again, all of that was my post EMDR treatment, right? That was post my EMDR treatment. That was after, a year of EMDR therapy where I found myself just capable again and capable of doing so much. And I used it. I used it all. It's like I found this new lease on life and all over again. I felt like I was just coming out of grad school, like, wow, I can do all these different things. Let me do them. So in a sense, that's the one thing that I would say, because with dealing with trauma, you always have to kind of look for what would the one silver lining or the one thing that I learned or can take with me be from this, and that would be it, right? Like that new lease on life that I had, and being able to rebuild professionally and personally in ways that have worked really well, you know.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah,
So, and real quickly, you talked about EMDR therapy. Can you just, for people who may not know what that is, can you go into what that is briefly?
absolutely. Yeah. So I'm not 100% sure of the acronym, but I can tell you the parts that I do remember and the important parts, right? So EMDR, eye movement desensitization, I want to say rapidization, but basically what happens when you are traumatized is that your brain stores trauma and your body and mind respond to lots of different things as if you're being traumatized. Your brain starts to take over with a trauma response. So you could be really happy and all of a sudden you feel frightened. You could be nervous about something or anxious, and all of a sudden it's like you have a flashback, because your brain really starts to take over. You can also get to the place where you just kind of can barely function, right? Like you're confused, you're not sure what you want to do, you kind of feel like you're living in a cloud. Those are all definitely things that I experienced big time, right? Which again, I literally could not do lots of things that I used to do before that. But what EMDR does is while working with a specially trained therapist, they really work with you on accessing those parts of your brain that are really causing the heightened reactions to different memories and different triggers. And then working with you, you're following their fingers with your eyes, you're turning your head in certain ways, you're saying certain things, they're having you share and access certain memories that you've had. And that helps you to access your brain, um, and those areas that have been affected, and helps you to process it and to heal and to recover. So that's what it was. I had spent a year with a regular therapist prior. We got absolutely nowhere. And, she was a therapist who could work with people who had dealt with trauma. But after getting nowhere for a year, she was like, I really think you need EMDR. And I was like, hey, whatever works, I'll try. So now I'm like a strong advocate of it, and I think it's amazing. So, yeah.
So it's like you tried, the regular therapy, and then you did that for a year, and then it turns out you needed something more intense.
Yes, absolutely. Much more intense. And it was really effective. Um, and then my therapist, I remember she ended it with like teaching me things that if I should happen to start to feel triggered at home or in different environments that I'm in, here are some ways that I can try to work myself out of it. So she even gave me some like techniques for the road, you know. Luckily, I've been pretty well for the most part. I mean, once in a while, I'll get a some sort of a communication, whether it's, you know, something from the courts or something from the city or that sort of thing regarding um, the abuser, and that will re-trigger me, and I will have some trouble and need some more help. That does happen, and every single time that I have to have some sort of connection with that person again for anything. And it happens with my daughter too, unfortunately. But we're both in a better place because once I can get myself better, or once I can, you know, when just me being able to function, I can be that warm presence for her and just assure her of her safety. And you know, I have an amazing husband now who's kind and who's loving and who has literally like just been through it with us. I mean, to the point of like sitting through our tears and helping us to feel whole again in different ways. And that's also been a tremendous help. So we have a lot of safety and security now, but we wouldn't have any of it if I didn't have EMDR. I wouldn't be able to have provided it for her or been able to move forward in my life.
It's and it definitely sounds like you've moved forward.
Mhm.
You're in a better place. You got remarried. Well, you weren't married to the guy. No, you
Oh,
were.
actually, I was,
You were.
unfortunately. Yeah.
So yeah, so you got remarried, right? Because I
Hmm.
imagine there are women
Yeah.
right now who went through something similar and they're afraid of men, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But you push past that and you were able to open yourself up to another man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also want to say, like, regarding that, it's kind of two things happened for me regarding dealing with that man. One, you know, even though this person was abusive to me, you know, I have a younger brother and an older brother, but I have a special relationship with my younger brother who's an army guy, who's a tough guy, who I absolutely love and adore, and who's, you know, caring and protective of me. And I have, you know, a ton of cousins and uncles, and I have all these men in my life who have shown me so much love and care. So I feel like that has helped, right? That has definitely helped me not feel like all men are bad, right? When you have these family members who truly love you and you know will step in for you and have stepped in, literally have, um, it makes a difference. And then the other thing is also, you know, I have sons, and it's not something I share much, but literally, like getting that person out of the house. It's, you know, one of my sons were involved in that. I would not have been able to get that person out of the house still if I had not had my sons there. Like the initial incident that happened, my sons were together, and the older one was one that literally dragged him out the house. And then that's when it got to the point where I was able to come up with a plan of like, okay, well, here's what I can do, here's what I can give you so that you can go away, you know, here's whatever is needed so that I can kind of buy our safety, right? And my son was just visiting. So the fact that one of the people who helped save me from this abuse was my own child, my own male adult child. I feel like that helps too. I can't say that I won't pretend for a second that I don't still feel afraid of men sometimes. I do. I sometimes still feel afraid of men. Um, Not my family members and not my husband, but sometimes I'll just like, it's like, okay, like I have to remind myself sometimes that all people are just people. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen once in a while. Um, and I have to like kind of work through that within myself. So I understand women who can't, you know, move past that. Maybe they haven't had those other male figures who have been, you know, they're superheroes in different ways. But I'm lucky that I have, you know.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah.
So there's a part I wanted to clarify. So you had your your boyfriend at the time um you were trying to cater for an event and he didn't want to do that, and so you looked for a
A
a caterer,
caterer.
a caterer anyway, and
Yeah.
that's what you okay, and that's what you ended up with the man in question.
That's how I ended up dating him. So the boyfriend I had, he and I, we ended things.
Okay.
Um, yeah, yeah. And then but he left me hanging, like literally left me hanging with just a couple of days. He had his own slew of problems, so I'm not, faulting him for it. But that's how I ended up reaching out for this caterer, um, and meeting him, re-meeting him, because again I knew him in middle school,
Mhm.
and how all this started, just got started,
Oh, okay. So now that makes sense. So now I'm wondering, so that first boyfriend that left you hanging is he the the father of the two boys?
Oh no, 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 no,
Okay.
definitely not. No, the
Mhm.
father of the two boys, his name is Harry,
Okay.
and we still get along just fine. So we knew each other. We lived around the corner from each other for most of our childhoods, and we ended up dating as teenagers. And then he's the father of the two boys. We had a long relationship, but we really just grew apart, grew our separate ways. So, but yeah, that's him, and he was actually one of the people who was really trying to be supportive, and like just would call and be like, "Hey, hang in there, you can do this," and not in a trying to date me way, right? Because he had a wife and all that at that time, but just being kind, being family to me when I needed it. That's, I guess, that's another example of another man who was in my corner when I needed help.
Yeah, yeah. And it's you
Mhm.
had I mean, I bring it up because I'm like I'm trying to map out your life, and it's just you have the father of the two boys, and then you had this other boyfriend that kind of just fell out, and then you had this boyfriend that was the abuser, and now you're married.
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
you've
I should say I was also married to the abuser for sure. So, in
right.
terms of like, yeah, a common law marriage, definitely Harry, my children's father, my son's father. We were common law married. We were together for, I don't even know how many years, like well over a decade, um, and lived together and did everything together. Had kids together, obviously. But yeah, that other person was just a boyfriend. And then my daughter's father, I was also married to him, legally married to him.
Right.
And I'm legally married now to someone amazing. So, yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Hmm.
So it's you. I mean, I bring it up because you haven't given up on men, right? That which is what the point that you brought up because you've
I
had a
love
lot,
men,
you've had a
Gabrielle.
series of men, right? So it's like
Yeah,
it's not like it's not your it's not your first merry-go-round, right? You've had
so
a
true.
couple men before the abuser,
Yeah.
so it's so it's and this wasn't well, this was your first marriage? No, it wasn't your first marriage.
Well, if you count the first one, because it was common
Oh, the
law,
common law marriage, right? So like
right? But then
so
my
it's
first
like you know
legal
what it's
marriage,
like to be in a long-term committed
yeah,
relationship. So it's
absolutely.
nothing new to you.
Right.
But I get the sense that what he did to you was a surprise because it was a complete like, whoa, I did not expect this.
Yeah, it was a complete surprise. The day that I brought my daughter home from the hospital was when he first really threatened me. And I was like, obviously, I had just given birth. So, and it was a complete surprise. It really was. Yeah, for sure.
So I know the well let me sorry, before I ask that, How long were you with the abuser? What period of time?
Mm-hmm. So we were together. Um, I want to say 5 years we were together.
That's a long time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And how soon into the 5 years did things start changing?
3 years.
So it was 3 years of bliss, and then something turned in the third year.
Right. Well, 3 years not of bliss. The first year was bliss. The second year was it was okay. Some good stuff happening, and it was all right. The third year was bad to horrific, and then the fourth and fifth year were just like living through hell on earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sure, the common question in these types of situations is, why didn't you leave sooner? Why did you stay
Mhm.
so long? So how
Absolutely.
would
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
answer that?
Yeah. So a couple of things that I think about. The first one was when this person first became abusive to me, right? I had, again, I had a new baby, and with them, and I also, when they first hit me, they struck me in the face, and then they ran in the bathroom and hid, and then came out crying and saying that they have PTSD from a bad experience that they had gone through, and they didn't realize that they hit me until after they hit me. And crying, literally crying tears and saying, please help them. Please don't leave them. They need help. Right. So this person's, a psychopath, like literally a psychopath. And had me believing, I don't know how long, that they had this like massive problem with trauma that caused them to act this way, and that they were not actually intending to abuse me. Most people won't like run in a bathroom and come out crying. Like it's very, you know, it was an acting job. It was an acting job. Um, so it was a lot of acting, a lot of like hardcore acting. And I think between that and between me feeling like I just had a baby, I need to try to make this work. I need to, we'll go to counseling, we'll go to therapy, we'll figure it out. It wasn't until I realized that it was just their acting. And it's funny because we went to a performing arts middle school together. I should have known, right? But it wasn't until I realized that it was just their acting that I was like, okay, hell no, I'm out of here. I really believe that they were experiencing trauma and blacking out. I mean, there are people who come back from combat and who are traumatized and who will deal with like horrific things that do actually do things like that, in a traumatized state. Like that's something that really does happen. But it wasn't happening. It was an act, It was all an act. So we tried therapy. So at that point I was like, okay, well, we have to go to couples therapy. So we started couples therapy. He started seeing a psychiatrist on his own. That was part of the agreement. He got medication. He said he got that he was, they gave him medication to help him deal with his mood and his trauma. Um, yeah, I saw the bottle, and everything was legit with using these services. What wasn't legit is that he wasn't actually taking the medication. I eventually learned that. And the first therapist, I thought we were both trying. Um, and she was like, well, clearly, there's no bad guy in this relationship. There's no bad guy in this marriage. Your husband loves you and he needs help with these things. And, you love him and you're such a good person and you're willing to be there for him. And I believe in you two as a couple. All this crap. Right. And I believed it too. I mean, I think anybody would believe it. Nobody expects a total psychopath to be, in their midst, right? And so
The
then,
therapist didn't sound supportive.
well, she didn't. I think she really was fooled. I don't think she was trying to be hurtful in any way. I think she was really fooled, just like I was fooled. I think she really thought that. my husband was dealing with trauma. And um and so then eventually, I don't know what happened, but we stopped seeing that therapist after some time, and he seemed like he was doing so much better, and then it started again. So then we went to another therapist. Now, this therapist that we went to, I gained a lot of clarity because I had already started to suspect. By this point, I started to suspect that there was something else going on with him and that it wasn't trauma. Um, and one time we both went to the therapy session. This was really eye opening. We went to the therapy session, and I was running late. Coming from Brooklyn into Manhattan, and coming from two different places. I was running late for the session. So my husband got there before I did, and he started talking with the therapist. And by the time I get there, the therapist is very upset. And he's like, your husband's been filling me in. And, I really think that you need to look at some things. And I don't remember what he said, but he starts to go in on me about how I need to basically be a better person and more considerate and be a better partner, right? And so I was like, I don't think you have the full story, and I was defending myself, which I guess really made him think even more that whatever my husband was saying was true. And so,
That he was fooled. That he was fooled too.
yeah, he starts yelling at me. I said, listen, I think my husband has some sort of personality disorder. I'll be straight with you. At this time, I'm really, this is what I said in front of my husband, because I had told him too. I said, I think there's something going on with you, like more than trauma. Like none of what you do adds up. And so the therapist starts yelling at me. He's like, you think he has a personality disorder? You have a personality disorder. And he's like yelling at me at the top of his lungs. And
It's not
so,
what you needed to hear.
sure isn't. So then, and this is after the abuse that had already started, Gabrielle. Can you imagine? Um, so then I get into the car with my husband and we're driving home, and he just starts laughing and laughing and mocking the therapist and saying, you have a personality disorder, and just laughing and laughing hysterically because he feels good and he feels like, oh, I pulled the wool over his eyes too. So that's the type of person I was married to, like a monster who, even to this day has people believing that I've victimized him somehow and I'm wrong when he's literally like, almost killed me and done horrific forms of violence that I won't even talk about to me and my daughter. But so yeah, so that's how I ended up staying because those last couple years that were, I'd say the last 3 years, went from like, I don't really want to do this to I have to run. But I got support that didn't know what they were doing, and that he had tricked people who he had tricked, and I thought I was working towards something working, and he was playing a game.
So when did? Sorry, we got a comment here. Wow, that's
Mhm.
awesome. We got some support there. Um, so let's. So all this you were thinking he was acting, right? Or he was
No,
acting, but you were believing it.
right, exactly.
So let's revisit the moment when you decided it's time to go. It's time to pull the plug.
Mhm.
What
Mhm.
what happened there?
Yeah. So a couple things. I started using Google more and more. I was on that Google searching his traits and different things that he would do where I would think he was lying and I was confused and on and on. And I found, terms that I was familiar with, like gaslighting or like manipulation or um, different things. But then I stumbled upon the work of Sandra Brown, the psychologist. And in her work, I was able to really read about, the clinical term is antisocial personality disorder. That's what people who have psychopathy or who are psychopaths or sociopath or sociopathy have. It's antisocial personality disorder. And in the criminal world, they consider it psychopathy and sociopathy. In the clinical world, we consider it antisocial personality disorder. So Sandra L. Brown is a psychologist who talks about it, who writes about it, who studies it, who all this work that she's done over decades. And I was able to learn about super traits. And super traits are these traits that women or partners, because there are also women who are psychopaths. Unfortunately, it happens with women too, and who select a partner, whether regardless of gender, right? They there are super traits that these partners have that make them like the perfect victim or the perfect person for somebody with antisocial personality disorder to target. So after reading about that, having many a conversation with my younger sister, many a prayer, many a discussion with my friends, and family, I realized I have to get this person out of my life. So it was. I don't feel like it was like a moment, but it was more of like several months of like learning and research, and then it was just like, okay, I definitely have to do this, and I have to figure this out one way or another. You know.
So what happened? So you made the decision. It's time to go. What
Yeah.
happened next?
So I say to them, this isn't working. And I think that,
The abuser. You told the abuser.
uh-huh, this
Okay.
isn't working. And, I don't, he was still leaning on he has mental problems, which I knew he does have mental problems. He's a psychopath, right? But it wasn't the problems that he was pretending it to be, right? Like with PTSD and all these things, about him reacting. Um, and it was just like repeated conversations of I need you to leave, like we can't do this. It's not good for our daughter. It's not good for anybody. This is not a good situation, and on and on and on. And it fell to deaf ears, right? Because really, this person just wanted to get what they could get, out of me, financially, and didn't want to give that up. So more abuse, calling the police at times, no real help from the police, all these hotlines, and trying to figure this and trying to figure that. Family had offered by this time. Family had offered to help me, but I didn't want to get them involved. I didn't want to go somewhere and risk that this literal psychopath would show up. Like I don't want to bring a psychopath to anybody I love's home or family. I don't want them trailing me over there. And who knows what they would do. This person had pulled knives on me by this point. This person had, I found text messages in their phone where they were telling their friend to bring guns once after we had had an argument. So this was not, a sane or normal or rational person. And I didn't want to endanger anyone I knew and loved. And again, like the hotlines or DV shelters were just too hard to get into by this point. So, without me taking that risk, right? You have to file X number of reports. You have to do this. You have to do that, and then they'll consider you. Well, I'm like, by the time I file a report and this person tracks me down, like I'll be dead. So, so that's when I started to plot. Right. That's when I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to figure something out. I started to think it through. I started to figure out. Then this person attacks me brutally, um, in the middle of the night, and again the next day. Now, the next day was during daytime hours, and my sons were there. My sons were in the home, in the front of the home. So, they didn't hear what was happening, but my eldest son went to the bathroom. And I was also afraid for my kids. Like, again, this is a person who wants to stab and kill and shoot someone for no reason, like just totally deranged. I um so I wasn't about to go tell them anything and get them hurt. Um, but my oldest son heard my ex throw my laptop and yell at me. He had thrown my laptop at me and cursed me out. He tried to hit me in the head with my laptop. So my son came. He was in the bathroom and he heard that, and the bathroom was right next to my room at the time. So he came running out and he's like, what the? He's cursing and he's like, he threw that at you. I was just like, yep. So he's like, okay, ma, stay right here. He closes the door and he goes and he grabs my ex, knocks him on the floor, drags him around the apartment, and throws him out. Like literally, um, did that. So, and then we call the police again, and that's when my ex didn't want to come back in, right? Because he knew my sons were there. He's going to get his ass kicked. So at that point, though, he's still messaging me, harassing me. Um, at different times when they weren't there, he's driving to the back of the building, like all these different things to harass me. It's like I'm not going anywhere. You're gonna see what's gonna happen to you. All the abusive, I'm gonna kill you type threats that, when you've been, hit a few times, are pretty horrific to hear, and very believable, and it does happen. So eventually, I was like, okay, well, I can give you this amount. Why don't you just go get yourself an apartment? We'll try to work things out. We'll go back to therapy. We'll figure it out. So he agrees to that, and and that for me was the beginning of the end. Once that agreement happened, and first when my son got him out the house, but then when that agreement happened, um, I was just like, it's like I could breathe a sigh of relief and know that I was going to be okay. This was over. One way or another, this was over. I didn't have to live with a deranged animal anymore, and I was going to be able to get out. You know.
The agreement, sorry, just to clarify, the agreement being I'll give you this money and
And you
so
be on your way, and
you know,
I'll give you more money if you need it. Like I'll give you whatever money you need. Um, and I just need not to come back. That was the agreement. As long as you need it, I'll give it to you. Sorry.
a
And I did.
one-time thing or like an ongoing payment.
Ongoing, ongoing payment of desperation. And I wasn't planning to do it ongoing. I was planning to do it until I could figure out my next step of safety, right? So like it was just to like, but I did. I ended up making more payments, not several years worth, or anything, but I ended up making several payments for sure. You
Yeah.
know.
Are you still paying him today?
Oh no, Lord no. So so he abused our daughter, and I found out about that. She told me about that, and I went back to the police about that. I went back to the police about the abuse with me, and why hadn't they ever arrested him for all these times that I've called the police. And basically, I want to say it was the captain, the one, I don't remember his title, but somebody who was in charge at the precinct, who I told this to, um, took it very seriously, and I ended up being questioned for hours by a special detective, and on and on and on about my abuse. And he believed me. He found it to be credible. And so he got to face all those charges. After that, he had to face all those charges, and eventually ended up facing charges for what he did to my daughter. Um, for some of it, not for all of it, unfortunately. He took plea deals, which is whatever it is. But yeah, so no, I didn't have to keep paying. I didn't have to keep paying, but it was definitely not. It was not. None of this was an easy experience. It was horrific, and it was life changing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And where is he now?
Somewhere in Connecticut. You know, catering, going into people's homes, um, and catering for them. So, and it scares me sometimes because I'm powerless in this situation right now regarding what home he's able to go into or not. But there are children in these homes, and this is a pedophile and an abuser and a monster. There are women, there are teenagers, there are kids, there are all sorts of people that are exposed to this person who's capable of all of these horrific things. And when I think about it, I feel like that's the one thing that the courts should have taken away from him, right? Like, you're gonna have to, go work and whatever, go stock shelves or pick up garbage or whatever it has to be, but you shouldn't be have access to people's homes and their children. Like, that's sacred space. And this is someone who's trusted because they don't have the right charges, because they took plea bargains, because they have managed to skirt the law, in these different ways. So
He's
there's
not on the sex offender registry.
no, not on the sex offender registry, but he's definitely a rapist.
Hmm.
He's not on the sex offender registry, and you know, people have to be careful who they let into their homes. That's all I can say about that. Yeah.
And it is scary to know that. So did he? I'm sorry. Did he go to prison at all, or it's?
He didn't go to prison at all, and he repeatedly broke the restraining orders against me. So he ended up facing charges for that in Connecticut. But 2020 happened, and that was when I don't know if it was 2019 or early 2020 when he had last broken the restraining order. He did it multiple times for New York and Connecticut because I had restraining orders in both.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was after the pandemic when they were like, "Oh, we're gonna, figure this out." And so no, he never did charges. He always took a plea bargain, and I understand why he was offered plea bargains. I get it, and I'm not, I had to agree to that to some degree. But it kind of feels like, when they're telling you either he can get off, there's a good chance he's not going to have to do anything, or we can offer a plea bargain. It feels like a plea bargain is the right thing to do. But now, I look back and I'm just like, this person's not on any registry and they're literally like all sorts of sexual predator and violent offender. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I just feel horrible about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a scary thought to know that this man who abused you. It's like just reflecting over everything, how you've called the police multiple times prior to your exit, right? And
Yeah.
nothing really happened, right?
Yep.
Because he was acting, right. The I guess the police didn't really believe you, or they didn't take it that seriously, and you called multiple times, and then you called again, um and it took what happened to your daughter to finally say, okay, to this is serious now.
Right.
And even then, he got
Yeah.
a plea bargain. So it's like I'm assuming that it's hard to prove, and things like that. So
Right.
and
Hmm.
he probably still had them fooled, right? So and
Very
maybe
possible.
in a way, maybe he still won in a way because he got, he still fooled the courts, and so he's out working
Mhm.
again.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but
That's a good point.
yeah, so it is a scary thought, to know
Mhm.
that he can just easily pop back pop back into your life. But so I guess that leads me to ask you, are you afraid that he'll come back into the same thing again, or are you confident
Mhm.
that he's gone, he'll never come back?
Well, I'm working on being confident, right? So I live 6 hours from New York City now. I live 6 hours from where I used to live, right? And that's for a reason, right? And then also, My husband's in the process of adopting my daughter, and that would also end his legal rights. Um, the courts have denied him visitation, and then also not only have they denied him visitation, but he's filed multiple times, which again is just re-traumatizing for both of us over and over again. Because then she has to talk about it to a new set of social workers, and on and on and on. Um, but the courts have denied him multiple times, and then he's also not shown up. Like the last hearing, which would probably have been denied anyway, he no showed after. He'll no show multiple times and then show up once, and I have to travel 6 hours each time there and back and rent a hotel room. um, it's really torturous, and I think it's intentionally. I think this is intentional way of like his last ways of getting to cause us pain, right? Because he knows my daughter's going to have to tell the story all over again. He knows I'm going to have to again. He knows I'm going to have to travel. I'm going to have to figure out all these different things.
So
So
just
I
to be
think
clear, you're still going through that today.
so. My attorney just told me Friday that he filed again, but my attorney didn't get any paperwork for it, nor did I. So I don't know what the proof is, but yeah. So we're still going through this today, and the divorce has been done, and he's often not granted visitation. The judge has said multiple times no, but then he'll wait a month or so and refile again, just to dredge it all up again. So we have to go through all this hell again, and then sometimes he'll do that, and then he'll no show, or and then the judge will give another date, and oh well, he didn't get to show, so let's give him another chance to show, and it's hell. It's hell, Gabrielle. Honestly, like
Wow.
that's really hard. So I'm hoping that this adoption goes through quickly. It's been several months that we've been working on this, and my hope is that it'll be done soon so that we don't have to respond to those anymore, and my daughter doesn't have to go through it all over again and tell a new person about what happened to her, and I don't have to continue to be stuck in this part of my life. But so yeah, we're still going through it. Yep, to a degree we are. To a degree we are.
Yeah. And I can imagine what you're going through right now, because the fact that you're still having to deal with this, and I mean,
Hmm.
all of this ended what, 2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah, 3 years ago,
3 years ago, and you're
almost
still going
four. Yeah. So by by April of 2019, he was out of the house, and here we are. Here we sit. You know.
through. Yeah.
Mhm.
So we're about. I know you gotta run.
Mhm.
So now my question to you is, do you have do you have hope?
I absolutely do have hope. I mean, I'm here, right? I have a beautiful daughter. I have a loving husband. I have two amazing adult sons who are also growing and learning as young men. Um, I'm incredibly happy with where my career is in lots of different ways. Um, and that adoption is going to come through. Knock on wood. Uh, it's going to work out, and I won't have to deal with this at all anymore. Um, so yeah, I have absolute hope. And if things were to even go terribly wrong, my husband reminds me all the time. He's like, we'll put all of our resources behind ensuring Sarah's safety and your safety. Like nothing comes before that. Um, so that's also part of my hope. It's just I know that I have the love and support of someone who's got my back no matter what, and we're gonna get through it. You know.
So not so just quick question. So when all this was happening with the abuser, because my thinking was, okay, all those men that you talked about, right? Like, where were they?
Mhm.
Where was your brothers? Where was um the your son's
Yeah,
father? Where were all they?
yeah. So I didn't tell my brother. I didn't tell a lot of people. Like my older brother deals with his own illness and stuff, so I wouldn't expect him to do anything. My younger brother, has guns, and it does not play around. I would never tell my younger brother something like that because I know what the consequences would be, and I would never put him in that sort of situation. Also, they're ready to protect me at any moment now. And I'm trying to keep everything going on the up and up here. I'm trying to get my safety and move forward in a way that's healthy and legal for everyone involved. So that's where I am, Gabrielle. You know,
Yeah. So it's like
yeah,
you wanted to, you didn't really share
I didn't
what was
share it at all,
happening
and my
because you
my
were
brother,
afraid. You didn't want to get them involved, and
right? My brother was incredibly angry with me for it, and I'm like, yeah, you see this rage? This is why. This is why I would never share this with you until things are okay.
and the
Yeah, so,
son's father did he know?
yeah. He
Did you share?
didn't. He knew some of it. He knew some of it, but he didn't know like the all of it. But he's
Oh,
also. I mean, if anything, he's more someone who would give us a safe place to stay.
yeah.
Um, but I wouldn't involve him in that either because again, I'm not trying to drag a psychopath around. I'm not trying to get a psychopath shot in the head or showing up at other people's houses to attack them. It's just like I felt at least like I have to figure this out. Like I did this, I made this bad decision, unfortunately. I have to get out of it. I have to figure it out on my own. So that was my thinking. As for my sons, I didn't tell them either. So out of wanting them to be safe, you know.
And some, do you blame yourself for what happened?
Um, I mean, I blame him for being a psychopath, but I blame me for not slowing down. I blame me, and just in my decision making. I feel like I should have slowed down. I should have taken more time. I should have stumbled upon Sandra L. Brown's literature before.
Because I'm wondering if the abuser was like a rebound in a way because the guy that flaked out on you, you
He
know,
was totally a rebound.
yeah,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah. All right, I know we gotta run. There's a lot that we can cover, but like we did in the previous two episodes, I like to ask my guests to give words of wisdom. So, Amira, do you have any words of wisdom you'd like to share with our audience?
I do. I do. So, if you are in the dating market, you might want to consider a couple things. Give yourself 2 years before you make any legal commitment to anyone. Do not ignore any red flags, even if they don't seem red to you. If they're pink, look at them and interrogate them and figure that out. Talk to your friends and family about all those pink flags and everything. Your friends and family, even though you might not want to hear what they have to say, they may have insight that you don't. Okay, those chemicals coursing through our bodies when we are in love or when we think are in love are real, and they definitely come with rose-colored glasses. So slow yourself down. Also consider my book, Healing from an Abusive Relationship: Life After the Breakup. If you are not sure what your relationship is or if you're being abused, that book will really help you figure that out. And it'll also give you some steps to getting better. It's a very short read. It's not an at length book. It does not go into my story. It's really just tips and tools for working through what's happening or what's happened and figuring out what you need and helping yourself heal. Okay, so those are my last words, Gabrielle. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And and that's an interesting fact that you brought up. Like maybe some people may not be aware that they're being abused. They may think, oh, this is love, or this is normal, this is how people act.
Mhm.
They may not know that what they're experiencing is abuse.
Absolutely.
And you go into that in your book, right?
Yeah. Yes. In depth. All the things you can look for and put a name to and really come to understand, so that people can learn more and keep themselves safe. You know.
Yeah. All right. Well, Amira, thank you for coming back on Hot Topics. So let me just make sure we get those promos in. So yes, we did talk. We did plug your book. So I'm just gonna plug it in one more time. So the book that you just held up, it is called "Healing from an Abusive Relationship: Life After the Breakup." So that's the book right there. There it is. So I encourage you guys to go get that book. It is on Amazon right now. So it's for everybody, right? So if you are maybe you're noticing those pink flags that uh, Amira talked about, or maybe you're like, I'm not sure, or, definitely go get the book so you can learn, what is abuse and what it looks like. So I encourage you to go get that book. It is on Amazon right now. I will provide the link to the book in the description. So you will have easy access to it. But the name is on your screen right now. It is called Healing from an Abusive Relationship: Life After the Breakup. So I encourage you to go get that book. And you have a second book that is also on Amazon. It's a completely different topic, but it is called Zara and the Cool Girls. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so Zara and the Cool Girls is about a girl named Zara, after my daughter Sarah. So just like a little twist on her name. And Zara is all about like connecting with other girls and just having fun, right? So teamwork. How can we work together? What are the things that we need to do to like connect and enjoy each other? It's for young girls. I would say 10 and under, um, but just how to connect with other girls across like all lines, and just have fun and connect, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is an amazing thing to talk about, and that's an amazing thing to write about. So you guys watching and listening, go get that book as well. So those are two books that I want you to go get right now. So the first one again is called Healing from an Abusive Relationship: Life After the Breakup, which is on Amazon. And the second book is called Zara with a Z and the Cool Girl. So those are two books that I want you guys to go purchase right now on Amazon. And of course, I want to make sure that you guys know where to find Amira Martin if you want to reach out to her, pick her brain, whatever it is. So she has a plethora of social media accounts. So I encourage you guys to follow her on every single one of those accounts. So she is on Facebook, she's on Instagram. What else? I'm not Twitter. Okay, she's on Facebook and
Mhm.
Instagram and YouTube. So I encourage you guys to follow her on all of those accounts. It is scrolling below at the bottom of the screen right now, but it is also in the description. I made sure to put every single one. So I encourage you to follow her on all of her social media accounts, you guys. So, like, she's Amira.Martin on Facebook. She also has an author page. She has like three websites. So I don't think I'm going to go into all of it, but it is on the screen right now. I'm just going to throw one out there: amiraforher.com. Then she has amiraforhim.com and then amiraforthem.com. So I'm just throwing some of those websites out there. So I encourage you guys to follow her on every single one of those social media accounts if you want to learn about her private practice. She does have a private practice. She has a few of them. Go to all three of those websites, you guys. So there's one for women, there's one for men, and there's one for the LGBTQ community. So I encourage you to check all of that information out. And again, it is in the description. So make sure you check it out. Mira, is there anything else you want to say about your business, your practice, or?
No, I mean, my business is really focused on bias-free psychotherapy for everyone involved. So that's why we have the different divisions and different focus. We also have providers that represent the backgrounds of the population that we're serving. So we're making sure, and we're really working on like culturally accountable care.
Absolutely, absolutely. So culturally competent
Yes.
care, because I know that that is lacking. So that's one
Mhm.
of the things that you focus on. So that is amazing. So if you are seeking that kind of care, Amira is your girl. So make sure you connect with her. She has all those accounts, you guys. So there's no way you can miss her. So make sure you check her out on all of those accounts and follow her on social media and check out her 3 websites, whichever pertains to you. Again, all of that information is in the description. So one way or another, you will have it. All right, Amira, you
Thank
probably
you,
got to
Gabrielle.
run.
Yeah,
But thank you again for coming back on Hot Topics, and thank you for sharing your story. I know this was really hard to share, and but someone out there needs to hear it, and I'm glad that you're sharing it, because if you don't share it, then no one knows. So
thank
um,
you.
thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for being a voice for somebody who needs it.
My pleasure.
All right, all right, all right. Oh, wait. There I am. Okay. I was going to remove you there. All right, you guys. Wow, that was all I can say is wow. All right, you guys. So we have reached the conclusion of yet another episode. Let me get my information up here. So, actually, before that, I just want to take a moment to say that if you are um, in an abusive relationship right now, I encourage you to seek help. You are not alone. There's always a way out. So even when you don't feel there's no way out, there is always a way out. So I wanted to just plug that quick PSA there, that if you are in an abusive relationship or you're experiencing any kind of abuse, whether you are a man or a woman, men can be abused too. I encourage you to seek the necessary help that you need. So whether it's a therapist or going to the police or even talking to a social worker, or talking to a friend, but please seek help. You are not alone. You are never alone. All right, so I wanted to make that quick plug there. Okay, so now let's come back to this. All right, so this Hot Topics is a production of my company, A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. So if you are in need of any tutoring services, homework help, or maybe your child is struggling in school academically, maybe they're falling behind, maybe they need to catch up on homework, maybe they're skipping classes, or maybe they're struggling, they may have a learning disability and they're struggling in school. There's a lot of different things that we've come across. Or maybe we also do K to 12, and we also do college as well. So maybe your child is just struggling in school and is completely overwhelmed. Hit us up, you guys. Our website is www.astepAheadtutoringservices.com. You could also follow us on our many social media accounts. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Eventbrite, and TikTok. So hit us up on all of those social media accounts. The information is on your screen right now, but for those of you listening to this on a podcast, all of that information is in the description. So, one way or another, the information is at your fingertips, but I will give you the website again. It is www.astepaheadtutoringservices.com. So, if you are in need of any kind of academic assistance, we do provide a local in house sessions for our immediate area of New York City, but we also do virtual sessions as well nationwide. So, well, across the US, I should say. I'm also interested in dabbling in other countries as well. So, maybe if you're in another country and you're listening to this, maybe you're in Canada, hit us up, you know. But but yes, again, one more time, I'm going to give you the website, www.astepAheadtutoringservices.com. If you are in need of any kind of academic assistance, hit us up. I also want to encourage you to leave a comment below. Leave a comment in the comment section and also give us a rating. I definitely want to know your feedback about this episode. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Uh, were there things that you wish were brought up? Whatever it is, please take a moment right now and drop your thoughts in the comment section. If you happen to be watching this on YouTube or Facebook, or if you're listening to this on a podcast, you can also give us your thoughts as well. I think Spotify has a text box now, so and all good pods. So, however you are taking in the sound of my voice, please take a moment right now and leave a comment in the comment section, and also give us a rating. I would love it if you can give us 5 stars. Uh, but please rate honestly. But yeah, so please take a moment right now and let us know your thoughts on this episode. Drop a comment in the comment section or in the comment thread and give us a rating. All right, you guys, thank you again for joining me on another episode of Hot Topics. I look forward to you joining me at the next episode. Thank you again. And now I am signing off. Bye. Bye, you guys.